Hi, friends. Adam Kirtley, Chaplain at Whitman. I hope you are well this week. Um, when I was an undergrad, my junior year, I studied abroad in Scotland and developed an incredibly close friendship with a guy named Forbes Sinclair. And Forbes was from a little village near the Highlands in Scotland. And I went to visit him and his family and stayed with them for about a week over one of our extended breaks. And we decided to go on a hike. And the hike was on sort of a hillside or uh, small mountain very near his village. And before we started the hike, he picked up a stone at the bottom of the trail and invited me to do the same. And I didn't understand what I was doing or why I was doing it, but he said that it would come in handy later. And we got to the top of the climb, and there was this pile of rocks, this pile of stones that I later have I learned that it's referred to as a cairn, and so we added our stones to this pile as countless others hikers had done before, and since then I've been really drawn to and enjoyed sort of seeing these man-made rock piles and formations that are often found in nature all over the place. I must have seen them before here in the States and never took time to really appreciate them. Just this week, my wife and I were on a jog on the Mill Creek Trail. I hope most of you have discovered that little gem of Walla Walla, but it's a beautiful trail that follows along the Mill Creek, which has been sort of constructed by the Army Corps of Engineers to help channel Walla Walla's water that comes down out of the Blue Mountains. And at the base of the trail along the creek is sort of an uncurated part. Most of it's a more wild. As it moves up, it becomes much more sort of structured and engineered. But at the base, it's more wild and open. And um, as we started our run, I looked up and realized that there was not only one cairn, but probably close to 20 of these rock formations that I've never seen before. They've all been developing over the last few weeks, presumably since the onset of our isolation. Some of them were perhaps put together in their entirety by a single individual, and I can only imagine that others have been slowly added to by other visitors to the area. We continued on our jog, and about a quarter mile up the creek, which spans probably about 20 or 30 yards, right in the middle, on a stump that was sort of hung up there in the water, sat a young man who was meditating, and and of course he knew that as people were cycling or jogging by, that he would be visible to them, but there was something incredibly peaceful about him, um, uh, and about this space that he had chosen to sit and to think and to reflect. And and I felt like he'd made a really good choice. And so as I thought about the rock formations and his meditations in that area, um, I was reminded of the idea of thin places. Thin places traditionally come from Scottish and Gaelic ancient culture, but I think it's most beautifully described in an article that I found by Eric Weiner written in the New York Times back in 2011. Um, he says, I'm drawn to places that beguile and inspire, sedate and stir, places where, for a few blissful moments, I loosen my death grip on life and can breathe again. It turns out these destinations have a name: thin places. It is, admittedly, an odd term. One could be forgiven for thinking that thin places describe skinny nations, see Chile, or perhaps cities populated by thin people, see Los Angeles. But no, thin places are much deeper than that. They are locales where the distance between heaven and earth collapses, and where we're able to catch glimpses of the divine or the transcendent, or as I like to think of it, the infinite whatever. Um, I would include the possibility that thin places might not necessarily always be a place at all. For me, music can be and has been in my life a thin place. And certainly this week, I've been mourning the loss of musical hero John Prine, who succumbed to the infection just a few days ago. Trying to select some words of his to share is nearly impossible because where do you begin? It's he was a prolific songwriter and took me to thin places with some frequency. So I'll share the lyrics to um, his poem or his song "Souvenir." All the snow has turned to water, Christmas days have come and gone, broken toys and faded colors are all that's left to linger on. I hate graveyards and old pawn shops, for they always bring me tears. I can't forgive the way they rob me of my childhood souvenirs. Memories they can't be bought, they can't be won at carnivals for free. Well, it took me years to get those souvenirs, and I don't know how they slipped away from me. Broken hearts and dirty windows make life difficult to see, and that's why last night and this morning always look the same to me. I hate reading old love letters, for they always bring me tears. I can't forgive the way they rob me of my sweetheart's souvenirs. So, friends, my invitation to you this week is that you might look for thin places, places where this world and something more infinite and eternal seem to be separated by very little. To find those places of solitude as a place to rest, a place to meditate, a place to quiet the mind. I hope you are well. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I hope to see you around soon.